Episode 9 coming at you. A little hunt highlight episode. Full-fledged podcast. I'm your host, Justin Mulvaney. Got my co-hosts here, Brooks and Tanner. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
I'm Brooks.
I'm Tanner.
Holy
I'm from
crap.
Colorado.
All right. Well, Brooks and
Lord.
Tanner hopping on the pod today. Just a short episode, a hunt highlight, kind of talk about the past week or so of hunting that we've done, and then kind of a look in at the weekend to come or the week to come. Brooks, he just doesn't really get to hunt very much, especially this time of year. So he's just kind of the tag along and ask questions when they come up. If we're missing any details, he's gonna be sure to fill in.
Yeah, all my buddies got rifle tags. One of my buddies shot a nice bull the other day. My coworker shot a really nice buck today. His buddy shot a really nice buck as well. My other buddy shot a buck last week. So, I'm just hanging.
Sucking hind tit.
I got you.
Uh,
Then you guys both shot a doe a few weeks ago. So,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Told
Yeah,
Brooks
yeah.
he needs to be better friends with those guys that went hunting so he can tag along next time, but
that's what I'm saying.
maybe
Yeah,
next year.
or just move to Tennessee.
Could move to Tennessee.
Yeah, we were in the tree yesterday and sending in our little group text all the updates of what we were seeing, what was happening, all the crazy stuff, and I could just see it from afar. Brooks was like, "Man, I wish I was out hunting something right now."
Dude, seriously.
He was so mad he didn't reply for 3 hours.
What was I doing yesterday? I was working.
Allegedly.
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 Allegedly
Se-
working. I
Sending
hope my
pictures
boss doesn't see this.
of turkeys and deer.
Yeah, freaking turkeys, deer here. I became friends with a doe. It was great.
Great day at work. All right, so we'll get into it. Talk a little bit about, I guess we'll talk about the past first, obviously, and then we'll look at what we have to come this upcoming week. Starting, I guess, from the last episode or last hunt highlight episode. I think I went out once or twice during the weekdays, Monday through Thursday, to that spot, and I did not see a darn thing. There were no fresh rubs, no fresh scrapes. I was able to sit right above my camera, and I hadn't been getting any deer on camera for a handful of days prior to going in there, but I figured, well, I may as well sit in there while the wind is right and see if maybe they're just walking on a trail behind the camera or something like that. And that wasn't the case. I sat as long as I could from the earliest I could get in there all the way until very dark. I couldn't even see my pins anymore. So past dark, and didn't see any deer at all, even on my walk out on that night. So yeah, and then I mixed it up a little bit. I sent Brooks a text while I was in the tree that day. That was election night. I was like, "Hey, you got to help me pick a spot here." I sent some pins to Tanner and sent some pins to Brooks, and I was like, "All right, Brooks, you're you're helping me pick one." And so we picked a pretty good spot. There were lots of trails, and looked like some good deer sign, but again, didn't see any deer in there. So I'm gonna go back in there probably tomorrow or Wednesday, see what that's all about. But that's it on the well for the midweek, and then my weekend got a little bit crazy. Saturday went out, ended up going out with Caitlin, my wife. She had never been hunting before, and so we went and got some orange. Yeah, we got a vest and a hat for the both of us because it was muzzleloader opener. So had to be legal, had to be able to be seen. So we went out and we just kind of slowly walked through the woods, and it was cool to get to show her some fresh sign. There was a few rubs and some fresh scrapes, and so it was cool to be able to like show her the things that I'm looking for and all that cool stuff. And then as we were walking in, we kicked out a handful of deer out of a bedding area, which I thought was going to be a bedding area, but I wasn't 100% sure. Um, I wasn't really paying too much attention to the wind and the way we were coming in. Who knows, if we would have played the wind a little bit better, we might have been able to get a sneak in on that bedding area. But anyways, we kicked up a buck, and he kind of hung around for a little bit at about 30, 40 yards. Didn't give us a shot, but no, it was cool. We hung out until just a little bit before sunset and got out of there. And then yesterday, Sunday, that was the big day. I worked in the morning and got into the woods as soon as I could after work. Got in there and um, you know, it was raining like crazy. As soon as I got in, it like as I was walking in, it wasn't raining yet. But as soon as I got in my tree, it started raining, and it rained for like 4 or 5 hours straight. It felt like, and then it just let up. And this whole time, Tanner and Brooks and I are all texting back and forth, and Tanner got out into his set. Lo and behold, the rain lets up, and out come the deer. The first thing that came by was a fawn. She came running by. It's either a fawn or just a really small doe, young doe. At first, I didn't know what it was. I thought it was a coyote. Like it was so small, and it was like just below me at an angle that I just saw gray, and I thought it might have been just a coyote. Well, then she was panting, running like crazy. And 20 seconds later, not even, here comes trotting in a buck, and so I kind of scrambled and got my bow ready and looped up, got my release hooked on, and I went to turn around, and my boot squeaked, and he looked up and blew, and so he was out. That was that, and then that kind of initiated a good 35, 45 minutes of chaos of deer moving in and out. I was texting Tanner that whole time after that doe got out of there, and that buck got out of there, and it was like, yeah, this, that, we're talking about other things, and then what was the text I sent you, Tanner? It was like, holy shit, or holy crap, dude.
You said fuck, dude, and I was like, I thought you fell out of the tree. I was like, what's wrong with you? And you're like huge buck, and I said bye.
Hmm. Yep.
But I put my phone in my pocket, and I was like, now I get to look around.
Yeah. So, there was I just ended up getting surrounded by them. Like they were all coming from a direction I wasn't expecting. I thought they were going to come from a bed, or from that same bed that Caitlin and I kicked them out of. Um, they did not come from that area. They came from that pin, Tanner, that you sent me Saturday night. Um, they came basically from that spot, and so it's basically two thermal hubs. I don't know what you would call that.
Did you hold on? Did you have your topography map on?
Yes.
Okay, that's the reason why I sent it to you. It's because
Yeah.
it was like in between two knobs, and I figured, I mean, it's probably gonna be like a highway.
Yeah, so there's two little cut-ins just like that, like within 50 yards of each other, and I set up on the southernmost of the two, and they came from the north. And so they came from downwind of me, which I was like, oh crap, but the wind wasn't blowing too bad, and they did not care because
No, they didn't.
they smelled that doe. And so they didn't really care about me if they did smell me. I did have, while the rain was coming down, I had a hunter come through. He never saw me, which, I mean, I had my orange on. It wasn't like I took my orange off and was hiding being a bow hunter, but he was a muzzleloader hunter, and he walked around me for a good hour, 2 hours, and he just kind of milled through the woods. And I was like, well, worst case scenario, he bumps some deer and maybe one runs by me, but he didn't bump anything from what I know. I never stopped him because it didn't really matter that he was there. And so he left, and then I think it was probably an hour and a half after he left, all this started going down. But yeah, so had the doe and the buck, and then texting Tanner, and then I saw this really nice. He's either a really big 6 point or maybe an eight point. Just a nice buck. I mean, he probably wasn't going to be like a 150, 170 buck, but just a nice buck, especially public land, Nashville area. So he was kind of following two other does. He wasn't that same small doe. He was kind of pushing them around. He kind of ran at one, and they both kind of ran off. And so I don't know exactly what was happening because he didn't have his nose down and he didn't stay on the one. And then, yeah, it was just like they were all moving around. The does went up one way, and then all the bucks kind of wrapped back around. And when they pushed back up to the north of me, or whatever, yeah, I think it was the north of me, I didn't know what the heck to do. I was like, okay. And so I just started grunting. I was gonna bring in my antlers, forgot them at home, but I just started grunting some small, soft grunts, and then some chasing grunts, just like some sequences of low, muffled kind of, putting in a couple sequences every like 5 minutes. And then pretty soon it was like I did one chasing sequence, and I think it was that same bigger buck. It could have been a different one, but it was another nice buck. He came running down the hill at this call, and So I mean, I was ready this whole time when I was calling because I knew the Bucks were in the area, and if they were going to come into a call, they were going to come fast. I knew I was going to have to be ready. I thought they were going to come in closer, and I wasn't so sure about my lanes farther out. But he stopped just past this tree, and there was a good opening. And I looked at it, and I thought about it for like 30 seconds. I was like, he's not that far. So I range him, and he was 30 on the dot. And so I'm like, man, his vitals are perfectly like I have a perfect shot at his vitals. He's standing still, broadside, maybe quartered away. So I'm like, all right, 30, draw back, smooth, no, didn't clank anything. I mean, he was alert, obviously, because he came down to look for something. And so he was alert, and I think that was part of the problem. One, I think I rushed my shot a little bit. I didn't think the whole process through. I should have thought more about how alert he was because obviously at this point now we all know I missed this buck, but the reason I missed, I think, I had the range perfect. The shot looked really clean. Left and right was perfect. Um, but I think, well, I know he ducked it because I got video of it. The video wasn't super clean, but I could see him duck and turn. And
Sorry.
Brooks is dying. I saw him duck and turn, and uh, I heard my arrow hit this log that was behind him. And so it was exactly where I was aiming, but I should have accounted for the dropping on the string. He dropped the string. So yeah, so that was it for yesterday. I kind of hung around. They came back. Some other bucks came back and kind of milled around. And I had another one. That very first buck, he came back and he was about to walk in front of me again. And then they all stopped and looked in one direction, and another deer ran across. He was probably 75 yards away from me. He ran back up to where they all came from, and they all followed him or her, whatever it was. And so I figured at that point my hunt was over anyways. So got down, got my arrow, and I blew my knock out, so I'm down a lighted knock. But yeah, that was the excitement of the weekend. So that's my story from
Pretty
this past
exciting.
week. Yeah, it was a bummer to miss, but I would rather miss than have a bad shot
Still be looking for it.
and yeah,
Yeah.
and still be looking for. It was really warm weather, and a long drawn out death like that, and a track job and all that.
Plus rain.
Yeah, it would have been a really bad night for a track job, and if I wouldn't have found him, meat would have spoiled, and it would have been a big, like even bigger bummer. So I'll take this heartache over the heartache of harvesting one that got to rot.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, kind of, I mean, disappointed in myself and felt like I could have made that adjustment in real time better than I did. And like looking back on it now, like I need to take that extra 2 seconds to think about how alert the deer is and the other factors aside from distance and my shot execution, adjusting where I aim based on other factors. I think that's the one thing I think was missing out of my equation there, and it would have added up because even with him ducking and turning, he didn't turn fast enough based on what quality video I have. He didn't turn fast enough to turn away out of line of the arrow. He would have ducked it, and then by the time he turned, the arrow was already past him. Yeah, that's my learning lesson of the day from yesterday. But Tanner, what did you see yesterday?
I saw two deer total. I was set up in the same tree that we shot our does out of. I was kind of in between going out yesterday. I've been fighting a cold for the last week and it was raining, so that was a factor, but it really wasn't that cool yesterday. I mean, it was probably 65 degrees, 70 degrees, and it was raining, so it was manageable. But I kind of just putzed my way up the hill. I mean, I was there, I parked at like 12:30 and sunset was 4:45. So I was pretty early, but I wanted to get in there kind of middle of the day because I knew I've seen a lot of people saying deer chasing, whatever, so anything could happen. And so I walked up the hill. I mean, it was pouring when I got there, so I tried to wait it out. On the walk in, it gave up a little bit, and I was probably 150 yards from the tree I wanted to set up in, and it was a downpour again. So I actually sat underneath a tree that tipped over about 5 feet up the stump, and I sat underneath that tree, and I was dry, so that was nice. But I was like missing time, but it didn't really matter. I got to my tree, started raining again. I was debating on getting up and being soaking wet for the next 3 hours. So I was just kind of texting Justin, like, ah, man, I don't really know if I want to fuck around with this, really. I ended up getting in the tree, whatever. It was rainy, really not a whole lot of life, period, up there. Like, squirrels really weren't at it, birds really weren't at it for a while. So I was just kind of in La La Land at one point, and I heard something behind me. I could see into somebody's backyard up there. So it's probably 250, 300 yards from where we were set up. But like now that the leaves have fallen off the trees, you can see for a good while up there. So I could see into somebody's backyard. And this deer, there's a buck that ran from this backyard in kind of behind me at like my 4 o'clock. Not even. It was probably like 2 or 3 o'clock. So he came hauling ass in, and then he kind of hung up at like 50 yards. I was telling Justin about it. I don't know if he saw me. I don't think he did. I think it's just me kind of playing tricks on myself. But I kind of whipped my head real quick because I was surprised. He stopped at like 50, and I lost track of where he was, and then I saw him kind of just veer off into the trees. So that was that. And then I tried my hand at self-filming a little bit yesterday, and like as I'm in the middle of talking with my phone, this is the first time I've ever done this in a tree. And of course, I sat for 15 minutes looking around, like trying to know when the right time is to do it, make sure that nothing's around. Absolutely. I'm filming myself, and like, I kind of moved my phone a little bit to show like the creek right behind me because I had the front facing camera on. And then I go to turn to show where the doe that I shot crossed, and there was a fucking deer coming from the same spot. Like as soon as I turned, and I like on camera, I just go, "Well, there's a doe that just ran away." So I like stopped recording immediately, and I saw nothing but her tail waving goodbye at me. So that was about all I saw. It started to rain pretty heavy again. 4:15, 4:30. I think it was 4:15 because I was out of the tree by 4:30. I got down, and I wanted to get to the fields um, before the sun went down just to see if anything was out and about or if I could kind of catch something off guard. I didn't see anything. There's actually two hunters sitting on one of the field edges. I came out and I saw their orange, and it was foggy and kind of dark, so I honestly couldn't tell if they were people or deer. But I looked at through my binoculars, and I could see the orange. I just kind of stood there for a minute because I didn't know if they saw me. They were muzzleloader hunters for sure, so I had orange on, but I also didn't want to just come bum rushing into this field and a deer comes running out and whatever happens. So I just made sure that there's absolutely nothing around before I made myself known. But I walked out, and they got up like as soon as they saw me and walked out, and it was an older fella and his son. His kid was a teenager, so it's kind of cool to see that and just talking to them a little bit about it. But he had told me that they were walking along the creek, and they didn't park where we normally park. They parked across the street in the gas station because he said well, we didn't know that this was here, so we
Mm.
walked down to the creek, and we're walking along the creek, and he said he had a buck and doe run in front of them at like 4 or 5 yards, and it caught him so much surprise that they like didn't know what to do because it was just like there and gone, but they ran like right in front of him, and they didn't pay them no mind at all. So
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's kind of a bummer, but also like I mean, you can kind of hear deer running. You know what
Right.
I mean? But yeah,
I
I
will
didn't really
say
see.
yesterday was the quietest I have ever heard those woods. I mean, we talk about how
Really,
much undergrowth and like everything's overgrown and there's so many leaves on the ground from all of that. And like that is the quietest. I like the guy that walked in on my spot, credit to him, I didn't hear him at all until he was like I didn't hear him. I saw him at 20 yards. I was like, "Oh crap." Like
yeah,
I didn't realize there was another guy in here.
yeah. It was also sopping wet, so it was
Yeah.
very soft. Like I didn't make hardly any noise getting in yesterday, which was nice. Well, I thought it was nice. Didn't make a bit of difference, but you and I were even talking about it yesterday. Like, not going to be able to hear anything coming in really
Hmm.
because there's no crunch at all. And even over when it did stop raining or when there was a break in the rain, those trees they just drip on those leaves. So all you hear, it sounds like it's still raining, but it's just dripping off
Yeah.
the bigger branches. Yeah, a friend of ours was in there. He sent me a video of a smaller 6 point last night that he saw. He passed it up. It was, I don't know, couldn't tell how close it was, probably 30 yards, maybe. Yeah, they're moving. I mean, on the way home today, I saw a smaller 8 point, average 8 point with his nose to the ground. He was going the wrong way. I don't know where he was going because there's a doe standing right here and he was going this way. So, but yeah, they're chasing. I've seen a lot of reports that they're they're up and about chasing right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think,
I think if you want to know what's happening in Tennessee,
yep, Rut has made it to Tennessee. That's for sure. I think that might be our one of our next episodes, one of our longer form episodes talking about Facebook groups. Just, I mean, half of my ideas come from Facebook groups. The things that come up in those things, it's like, oh my gosh, it it will never stop giving content ideas. But yeah, I feel like we can talk about a couple things that have come up in Facebook posts recently, especially in the Tennessee groups that we're in.
yeah, it's pretty. It's
Colorado
it's
elk hunters
it's
is terrible.
it's
I bet.
comedy. It's comedy. It really is. It's just
Yeah.
the same five questions asked over and over again. With some of the worst grammar I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. So, all right, looking at hunting coming up. Uh, Tanner, break the news.
Yeah, it's gonna be a couple weeks.
Couple weeks before Tanner can get out in the field.
Yeah, we
Bummer.
got plans this weekend. What is next weekend? I think we have plans next weekend. Kind of. I might be able to get out next weekend. I'm not. I'm not sure. I'll have to look at my calendar. But yeah, we're doing something Saturday for a friend's birthday, and then Sunday we're gonna do an early Thanksgiving. So
Right
it's all
on.
right. Spending time with family and friends.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Noise.
Yeah,
And then for me, like I already said, I'm gonna go out once to that spot that I go to during the weekdays. And then I think I'm gonna try to go twice on the weekend, if not all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Just go right after work Friday, or I might do an all day sit Saturday and a half day sit Sunday, or vice versa. I don't know. We'll see. But with the rut going on, I mean, bring out my rattling antlers and my grunt tube, and I mean, I already got. I feel like he came in because of that grunt call, and so I feel like it's an effective tactic right now, and so I'm gonna try my best at all those different things and see what I can get to come in. And this is the time of year where they're as dumb as they get, so try to kind of trick them into falling into the trap if I can.
well,
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so. That's some
I
other
got
stuff
it.
to talk about too, is like grunting and calling and those types of tactics, like how to lure deer in. I think that'd be a good one for us to talk about coming up soon.
Yeah, I'm new at it. I really don't. I mean, never had to do. Oh, give us, let her rip. Come on, let us have it. My God,
For our
what a
listeners, there it is.
what a
Yep.
sissy.
The
Nice.
listeners, not the watchers. Brooks has his cow call that he has been
His
practicing.
diaphragm that he just gagged on.
Sorry. Everyone upstairs, Chance is freaking out.
Oh, the dogs hate the calls. The duck
Hate the
calls, the
calls.
turkey calls. And they go nuts.
Yep.
They
Yeah.
go nuts. But yeah, so that's the week looking forward. I think on the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm probably gonna go right back to that same spot I was in. A lot better shooting lanes over there. It's not wide open, but it is better than a lot of other spots we've been in, aside from hunting on the edge of a field. So I'll probably
I feel
go right back in there.
I feel like being closer to the shoreline seems to be a common theme with being a little more open.
Yeah,
I kind of noticed that in one this spot we went duck hunting last year, and where we have walked pretty much directly across from where you were.
yeah,
So
yep,
yeah, I would I'd recommend you go back to that spot.
yeah. I think it'd be good. I mean, there's acorns. If there's not a doe coming through, there's acorns. So if there happens to be a chance where they're not chasing and they're going to feed, that's going to be really the only other time I would probably see them.
Yeah,
But I think they're going crazy enough right now already, and it's probably the first doe in that little area that got hot, and they're already going nuts. So I can only imagine what 5 days from now is going to bring. So
yeah,
it's
yeah, and
exciting.
it's kind of interesting that last year where we hunted and this spot that you were at this weekend, it's like we never even considered going that
That
close.
direction. Yeah.
Yeah, which I mean, looking at it now, it's like it's kind of like a little honey hole.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Which
in all honesty, like we're learning a lot. Like we've learned a lot over the last year. Secondhand knowledge, like watching people on YouTube and reading articles and things like that. But just experience too, and being like, okay, in this area, which is different than you and I are both used to, in these areas with some wood, like more heavily wooded and stuff like that, some hills. It's where are the deer at? Like, where do they hang out at the most? Where do they feed? How do they feed? And how does that change throughout the year? Those are all things that we've had to adapt to. And so far, we've done a good job. And I think it's like going into next year, it's going to be like even better. We're going to find
yeah,
some even better, like you said, honey holes of these are actual like hubs of this type of area, beds and food and transition, all those things. So I think it's going to be when we get to scouting this next summer, it's going to be interesting to see what we find.
yeah, and I mean there are deer everywhere around here. I mean everywhere.
Yeah.
There's so many of them, and I mean they're seriously everywhere. So the more that we kind of can game plan of where they're just going to be traveling, especially as the season gets a little bit later, I think we're setting ourselves up for some pretty good success. Once the muzzleloaders go away a little bit, it'll be the first few weekends are always a war zone,
Yeah.
but we hunt in an area where rifles are not allowed. Doesn't mean that people don't use them, but it's a lesser chance of them being around. So
Brooks, you got any questions for us?
I don't think so.
Not tonight.
unbelievable.
Just listening. Just listening.
Come on, you're supposed to be the question guy.
I got a question.
Let's hear it.
So for you guys out there, what I guess ethics wise, if you're up in a tree stand or a saddle, whatever you want to call it, and a hunter comes in and hangs around, like, do you like let him know? Because if he doesn't see you, I should say, do you like,
Hmm.
hey, I'm up here type of thing? Like, what's a good like say if you guys were hunting and then I came in, what would be a good distance from you guys to be while hunting in your area?
Uh,
Away, I guess away far apart. How far
well,
apart?
I'm actually very surprised you didn't say anything to that guy yesterday, because usually, I mean, I if they're within 50 yards, I tell them to skedaddle, or at least let
Yeah.
them know that I'm there, and they usually will. Like if you just are like, hey, and they're like, oh, my bad, then they
Yeah.
mosey on off. But I'm pretty
Mhm.
surprised you didn't say anything to that guy yesterday.
It was just the way that he was going about it. Like he had a tree climber and a backpack and everything, but he walked up, so he came in by boat, I'm pretty sure.
Mm.
he walked up, set all of his stuff down, and he just started walking around. And so it's like, okay, I mean, he might be looking for a spot to hang a tree set up at, but he just walked around and didn't like what he saw, I guess, and got out of there. And I mean, my experience of all the muzzleloader hunters that we've ran into and seen, that's all they do. They either walk around until they see something and point and shoot, or they sit up on a field edge and wait for something to come out in the wide open. And so I mean, that was kind of the only reason I didn't say anything. I guess it might have been wise to be like, hey, just so you know, like we're in some hilly terrain, like just be aware of where you're shooting if you're gonna go walking around, so you don't, you know your backstop, know that I might be
Mm-hmm.
your backstop. But you know, for muzzleloader, it's like your effective range is only a little bit bigger than archery, So I guess to
It's like a
answer your
hundred
question,
yards, right?
yeah, yeah, like 100 yards is not like unheard of. It's a lot more common than, you're not going to hear or see of very many like 150, 200 yard muzzleloader shots, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I would equate that to like the 30, 35, 40 yard archery shot. It's like kind of pushing it, but it's not unheard of type deal. Um, I guess to answer your question, how far like you walk up on us, you don't know us, where how far you should set up, I would say double your effective range or more, like like couple 100 yards, just to be like, okay. I mean, especially if you know the area or you've done your e-scouting, you at least have a general sense of the area. You can be like, okay, this exact spot not on the table anymore. That's off the table. This other guy's here. I know that if I go look at this other thermal hub that's maybe 150, 200 yards away, I might have just as likely a chance there as I would have at this other spot. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, not every situation is going to be like that where you have these sources that you can go to close proximity.
Right.
But, I would say, okay, he's here. I'm going to go 200 yards away and just see if I can catch them coming into that area that I wanted to be at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also,
Okay.
with it being muzzleloader opener, like you have to wear orange. So,
Right.
Yeah.
like you're in a tree wearing orange. Like yesterday when I was walking in, like I was looking where I was walking, but I was also looking up because I
Yeah.
didn't want to walk in on somebody, and also like I don't want to be like see some orange, and then this guy thinks I'm a deer walking in. Next thing you know, I have a fucking gun pointed at me. So,
Right.
That might be the difference. Like some people have never bow hunted and they've never bow hunted out of a tree. And so like they just don't even bother to think to look up. But this guy, he had his tree set up, so it was like you would think he would maybe look to maybe see if there was other hunters, but
Mm-hmm.
he never did. So it was that part was interesting to me, but I don't know. Yeah.
maybe it's the fact that I mean, you said he came in by boat, so maybe he like had no clue that there could even possibly be anybody else there,
Right, for
which
sure.
is actually kind of interesting to think about. But like where we parked yesterday, or where we normally park, there was a vehicle there that I had never like I didn't know who they were, so I knew that there was
Mhm.
somebody in the woods, and I don't know where they're going to be or having a general
Right.
idea. So like that's why I was looking up in the trees,
Yeah. It's
Mm.
like
and I have
high
it.
alert. You're
Yeah,
scouting for humans as much as you are deer.
I have a pretty
Right.
good idea of where he was because everybody, it seems like most people come in to that spot and they're like, I'm going to go all the way down there. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
best of luck to you. See ya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just kind of blows my mind that guy really didn't have like his. He didn't know his surroundings well. Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, at one point he was 15 yards. Like if he was a
Yeah.
deer, he's a chip shot.
Right. I mean,
And
we're all from Colorado, so we've hunted in the mountains here before. You kind of have to know your surroundings at all times.
mhm.
So
And
I don't
also,
know.
like, everyone's, if it's past October 1st, everyone's wearing orange because, I mean, there's like here, there is a season dedicated to archery, but archery also, it's like Colorado is very different. For those of you that don't know, like it's all draw system and season. So it's like early rifle, first rifle, second rifle, third rifle, fourth
Mm,
rifle, late season rifle, and then there's archery in like September, and that's like really it.
Yeah, the
and
first.
muzzleloader.
Yep. They always put muzzleloader in the middle of archery. If you want to do
Mhm.
early archery, it's you have to do an antelope tag, which I
Right.
mean, killing an antelope with a bow is nearly impossible, but it's definitely it can be done. I've seen it done, so
Yeah. That'd be fun. That'd be a
it would
fun
be a
one.
lot of
But
fun.
yeah,
I definitely want to do that next year.
yeah,
Justin and I talked about that 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Antelope
right.
hunting.
The thing with Tennessee, like Tanner was saying, like you can hunt with a bow all year, whereas like what we're saying with Colorado, like when it's rifle season, you're not hunting with a bow,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
So like it's not for us. It's like when it's archery only, and then it's muzzleloader, but it's also archery and muzzleloader, and then
Right.
when rifle opens up, rifle, muzzleloader, archery, all three can be used.
And shotgun.
Yeah, and shotgun. Shotgun gets thrown into to the well, they call it gun, they don't call it rifle. So,
Hmm.
Yeah, GMA.
yeah. So,
Do you guys have elk out there or no?
Yes.
yeah, there's a small unit, very small draw.
I was gonna say I'm assuming it's probably very hard to get.
Yeah, I think it's on one of the forts,
Yeah.
one of the
Okay.
military bases, or around it anyway. But yeah, very small draw.
I heard something that like it was like all the elk that has come from the east to the west are now in the west, but and the ones that are in the on the east side of the states now are just transplants, essentially. That's what I've heard. I'm not 100% sure that's true or not.
Potentially. I mean, there was a bull elk running around north of Holcomb in Kansas a couple weeks ago.
Oh shit.
They just nice thumbs up there.
Oh.
But they're just, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
Good grief.
Yeah, I know there's my grandpa, he lives up in Nebraska. He's like, "No, there's a lot of elk up here, but it's resident only." So I was like, "Yeah, that's okay." I know he said he knows a guy who's got a good amount of land, some really nice whitetail in there. So eventually I'll get up there.
Yeah, you should. Midwest whitetail, Midwest whitetail are they're a different breed. They get big out here, and there's no bones about it. But they get so big in these Midwestern states, Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska,
Hmm.
Missouri. I mean, even up into Minnesota, because they eat nothing. And Illinois, I mean, Indiana. I think Indiana's got the like world record or something for typical deer,
Jeez.
typical whitetail. I'm not 100% on that, but
Hmm.
the what was that kid's name? Because it was either Indiana or Ohio. But anyway, they're a big deer out here. They're a big deer up there
Yeah.
west. They're just different. They're just so much more on edge than mule deer are.
One day I'll get out. Hopefully next year. The goal is next year to get out with you guys. So
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
it's only a
It's not
15-hour drive. It's not bad.
and it's not too expensive for a
Not too.
non-resident.
It's
Can't
only
get
like a 2.5 hour flight. I'm sure it's easier to check your bow than it is a rifle.
probably. Yeah, I'd probably fly. Make it easy.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah, yo.
Well, I think we'll put a bow on it, wrap it up, and we'll have any closing remarks, anybody?
We have a special guest that wants to say hello.
Oh, special
Uh-oh.
guest.
There's Wolo. That's a good girl. Brooksy,
I have one.
there he is.
We got we got the Hoyts coming out
Oh
on
yeah.
Wednesday, and then Matthews is next week. Elite's already come out with theirs. Bear came out theirs a month ago. So we might have to do a little bow review episode.
Yeah, talk about all the
Obviously,
new features.
yeah. See,
All right.
then maybe all of us can maybe get to a pro shop and shoot them before we do that.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
Yeah.
Good deal. Well, that was a good highlight. Share the stories a little bit. Next episode will probably be a Monday release, but if it's something in between then, it'll catch us all by surprise. But until next time, it was a good one. Thanks for listening.
Later.